Hey, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you, depending on when you're watching this edition of Hypnosis Week Live. It's me again, Alex Williams-Smith by birth, but better known to some of you, certainly through the social media accounts, as Jonathan Royal, the British bad boy of hypnosis. Now, this week, this is one hell of a scoop. This gentleman doesn't very often do purely hypnosis related interviews, although this isn't going to be purely hypnosis because there's other areas of interest this man has got that I would love to discuss with him as well during the next 60 minutes. One of his biggest achievements, notably, is that he has the longest running comedy hypnosis stage show residency in the world today at 32 years. I don't know if this is year 33 we're going into. He'll clarify that in a minute. So please welcome to the show the legend that is the man himself, Mr. Ken Webster. How are you, Ken?
I'm all right, thanks, Alex. I'm not too bad. You know, getting through this, doing nothing all day. He's doing me.
Yeah.
There you go.
So look, the first question I ask everyone, and the last one is the same every week. In between, it's different because obviously your life's been different and your career's been different. But the first one is, there was a time when Ken Webster wasn't a hypnotist. What's your background? How did you end up involved in this crazy industry?
Oh, well, I suppose entertainment has run in the Webster family. My granddad had a circus of performing pygmies back in the early 1900s, yeah. And basically, I was a cinema projectionist for a few years. I saw a hypnotist when I was 9, a guy called Robert Halpern, possibly one of the most respected hypnotists ever. I saw Robert when I was 9, and I thought, you know, that looks different. And so basically, as I got older, I was a cinema projectionist, showing loads of films and stuff. Saved up the money, started doing courses back in 1981 with Will Proudfoot, of all people, lovely man. And basically, that's how I got into it. I saw a hypnotist when I was 9 and thought, that's what I want to do.
Now, the thing is, Wilf had the Proudfoot School of Hypnosis as well as a chain of supermarkets. An interesting gentleman he was. I know that he had the rights to teach in England Gil Boyne's syllabus, so to speak, for hypnotherapy and stuff. And I know you studied that. And I believe I've been told by one or two people I met in the past that you also went back and you helped out as a facilitator on courses as well.
I did, yeah. I helped Wilf teach rapid inductions. And Gil Boyne came over. Gil Boyne did a few courses as well, as did Ormond McGill. So you know, quite a lot of the American hypnotists came over, did courses with Wilf. But I did about 4 years with Wilf altogether, on and off.
So who would you say you actually learnt the stage side from? Because obviously Wilf mainly taught essentially therapy, but Gil and Ormond, two names you've just mentioned, obviously dealt with stage as well.
I learned the stage side of it, to be honest, Alex, off myself. Basically, 1986, I think it was. I went to Spain for 2 weeks holiday after doing 4 years with Wilf. I went to Spain for 2 weeks holiday, and I didn't come home for 3 years because I was in a bar one night, and the guy said to me, "Well, in the bar, what do you do?" "Oh, I've been training to be a hypnotist." "Oh, can you do a show?" "I've no idea." "Do you want to do one tonight?" "Yeah, all right." So I pissed about for a couple of hours, and it sort of started there. And one bar owner saw me do that show, and another one saw me do another one. So I ended up working 7 nights a week out in Spain, which was great training ground. I mean, I'd seen Robert Halpern many times at the Opera House in Scarborough. I'd seen Andrew Newton many times at the Opera House in Scarborough. Very good friend of mine, and Hugh Lennon, very good friend of mine. I saw Hugh, Andrew, Robert, and I thought, oh, yeah, you know, that's it. I looked at what other stage hypnotists were doing and thought, how can I twist that round to be my own persona, my own sketches, which is what I did in Spain.
Now we're obviously going to go back to hypnosis later because this is Hypnosis Week, and the viewers are therapist or stage hypnotist or involved in some area of the hypnosis industry. But you have so many different strings to your bow, Ken. Now, people watching this, if you look underneath this video, wherever it is, whether it's the Vimeo video or the YouTube version or on social media, there will be various internet web links underneath this video. all of them are ultimately Ken's different websites for different things. Let me briefly run you through them. There's kenwebster.co.uk. That is where you will go to get his live show DVDs. And if you were putting on, say, a hypnosis conference and you could afford Ken's fee and you wanted a stage hypnotist at the, the conference dinner, that will be the one to go to. redtickfilms.com, we're going to ask Ken about these different areas in a minute, is where Ken offers filming services to film events and shows, and also there's shows on there that he's got the rights on that he sells the DVDs to, so have a look there. Some of them are comedy shows. There's punk rock music as well, if that's your bag. Perhaps of more use to the majority of people watching this will be carryonprinting.co.uk. Certainly if you're in England. Bit prohibitive maybe if you're overseas watching this for the shipping on stuff, but in England definitely, if you want printing of any type, promotional items for your business, your show, your therapy practice, whatever, that's the one to be looking at. And also, if you're a therapist, well, no, if you're a human being who wants to lose weight, full stop, or you're a therapist who wants to look at what another therapist has put together, it might be worth you taking a look at Ken Webster's hypnoticgastricband.com, where Ken sells a USB with the 4 audio recordings that make up his gastric band approach. And what have you. So they're the links. You can see them there. You can contact Ken through them and get all the stuff. But that does bring me to the obvious question. Wow, you've got various different businesses going on. Well, do you not like to have a rest sometimes?
You missed out jukeboxdecals.com. That's the one that I've started since I've been in isolation.
All right.
Well, basically, nobody really wants T-shirts and stuff printed at the moment. So a very, very close friend of mine, Robin from the Grumbleweeds, he restores old jukeboxes. And he's been on at me for a long, long time. But why don't you start printing decals for jukeboxes? The Wurlitzer logos and these little numbers that they stick on the carousels and stuff. And I'll get round to it, Rob. Well, 2 weeks of doing chuff all, I've managed to actually get round to it. So jukeboxdecals.com for anybody who is restoring jukeboxes.
I was making a note of that, so I'd put it under the video.
We sell all the decals and all the stickers for the glass, for the carousel numbers, for buttons, etc. We only started that a couple of weeks ago. So it's a work in progress, is that one. But it's doing well. We're a lot cheaper than anybody else. You won't get them anywhere cheaper because a lot of these things are only available in America or only available from Germany.
Right.
Well, these are from the UK. You get them the next day. But that's another string to the bow anyway. Red Tick Films. Basically, I've always been a punk at heart. Always been a punk. I've always been into the old punk music. Since I was a kid. And I used to promote punk bands in Scarborough. The first band that we did was the UK Subs. And I said to Charlie Harper, the singer, look, any chance of us doing a DVD and selling it for you? Yeah, no problem, Ken. So we did the UK Subs. We did the Angelic Upstart, In for Riot. We filmed Public Image Limited, John Lydon, one of my heroes, where I managed to interview him as well. So there's a lot of punk DVDs on there, but we've just done Mick Miller. We've just done Mick Miller's DVD. We've done a couple of DVDs for the Grumbleweeds. For sadly Graham, when he passed away, there was a couple of charity shows that we filmed for them. They're all available on Red Tick Films. So that basically was how we sort of got into the filming business. Then we were asked to do other acts as well. We did Andrew Newton's live DVD. And acts were ringing us in, can you come and do as a promo and stuff. So that's really how Red Tick Film started.
Did you find, because I'm a believer, unfortunately it didn't come off, but a few years ago when one of my students got let down at the last minute for filming, I got in contact with you and you were going to sort out someone to film the show for him, but then he managed to bloody God knows what went on. It ended up out of my hands. But my logic, and I tried to tell him, was that to get someone like your good self, who either is doing the filming or at the very least is acting as a director, who already understands what is likely to happen in a stage hypnosis show, is a far better idea than just getting a normal film company to film your show.
Yeah, absolutely, because I know what I'm looking for. You know, I look at the people on the stage and think, right, he's going to react to that. Right, zoom in on his face. Oh, he's going to be doing that. Zoom in on her face. So, yeah, as a director for directing hypno videos, yeah, I must admit I know what I'm doing.
Hence, if you're in England or you're going to be doing a show in England, or well, I suppose if you were to pay Ken's travel as well and hotels on top of his fees, that he might consider coming to you. But it would be I suggest that someone who actually understands what you're going to be doing is going to get far better video footage for you than someone who could end up missing that important shot, couldn't they?
Yeah, exactly, absolutely. So that's how Red Tick Films was born. Blockbooker's the agency. Basically, my wife and I, we had a pub in Scarborough, the Cayley Arms in Scarborough. We sold that as soon as we heard about the smoking ban, because I said, there's no way a pub's going to survive with a smoking ban. We've got to sell, and we've got to sell now, which we did do. And so Tara, my wife, she was a area manager for Wetherspoons, so she had a big pub background. And so when we'd sold the pub, she was sort of rattling around. She went to Daisy Chain Inns for a bit, and she wanted to start an entertainment agency. So obviously with the contacts that I've got, we started Blockbookers. We work very closely with Explosive Productions. We supply all the acts and crews for the Britannia hotels, etc. We're doing Fred Olsen cruises, the Saga cruises and stuff. So that was sort of how Blockbookers was born. Really, that's been going about. That's what I really enjoy doing. We had a weight loss clinic in Scarborough, and I sold that. That was doing really, really well. We're doing a Gastric band and 3D liposuction and all sorts of stuff. And I had that for 2 years, and I sold that. And then we were sort of saying, right, what else can we do? I know, let's print some T-shirts. Not a clue how to print anything. So I was Googling around for some equipment. It was like, you can print your own T-shirts for £2,000. What a load of old bollocks. More like 42,000 if you want to do it right. Which is what we invested. And we sort of said, well, let's get the customers first. So I spoke to a good friend of mine like Chubby Brown, Grumbleweeds, all Sooty, all the people that are in the business, and said, can we take over your merchandise? Yeah, of course you can, Ken. Right, brilliant. I'll buy the equipment and learn how to use it. And that started off really as a hobby. It was just a hobby. Whereas now, we're doing 2,500 shirts a month for Leicester City Football Club. We're doing all Chubby stuff. We're doing some big stuff for McCain's. We just started doing some stuff for Six Silk.
You just very kindly done a load of car stickers for the NHS.
Yeah.
In your area.
I've been doing bugger all. I thought, well, all the doctors and nurses, man, they're all on the front line here. They're risking their lives for people with this coronavirus thing. They're putting their lives on the line. So I thought there's got to be some way I can sort of, help out if I can. So we did some T-shirts, social distancing T-shirts. We gave them away to a lot of the nurses in Scarborough. And that was getting a bit expensive, was that, because we were getting people from all over the country saying, oh, can I have a shirt? Can I have a shirt? And it started to cost me a few quid postage. And so I thought, right, what can I do? So we did these NHS worker people, which cost us next to nothing to print. We did 2,500 of them. And I was giving them out at Scarborough Hospital the other day. And I've got nurses and that coming to pick them up from my workshop. So, it's a little something, but, they're so appreciative of these, so appreciative of these car stickers. But, if you can do what you can to help these people, I think they deserve all the help they can get.
Excellent. For anyone who might hopefully be watching this in the future as well, as in like, fingers crossed, say a few months from now when we're no longer in England on the lockdown and the same around the world, this was filmed on the 7th of April 2020, to put it in perspective. Yeah. If anything seems at all batshit crazy. So, wow. It's so varied what you do. Do you actually get time for yourself, Ken? Because I know you're a family man.
Where I can, Alex, where I can. But, the wife's a workaholic as well. I must admit, this lockdown thing I'm quite enjoying to a point, because I'm spending a lot more time with my little girl. You know, she's 8 and we've been baking cakes and buns and all sorts of stuff and playing hangman and games and stuff. So it does have its sort of positive side as this lockdown thing. It does have a positive side to it, you know, spending more time with the family. So
now you've delegated, haven't you? I'm saying that slightly tongue-in-cheek, but you kind of have. I noticed that last year you said one of the best new sketches you added to your show was one that Georgia came up with for you.
Oh, yeah.
Poo collecting.
Yeah, the poo collector. You know, 30-odd years I've been doing this. And Georgie said, can I help you write my show, Daddy? Write your show, Daddy. So, oh, this is going to be good. Sarcastically. And she said, oh, why don't you hypnotise people to put their arms around each other and sing Shotgun by George Ezra? It's not funny, Georgie. You're not grasping comedy at all. And then she says, well, you could get people to hypnotise people that they're swimming at the bottom of the sea and they come across a whale. You're not getting this. But anyway, I let her carry on. Then she said, why don't you hypnotise somebody to imagine they're picking poo off the stage and keep it going throughout the whole show? Oh, there you've got something there. So basically, I hypnotised a guy, put a white coat on him, and we printed poo collector on the back of it. And I got these tiny these lumps of poo from B&M bargains for like 99 pence each. And basically, I come on and I throw a poo on the stage. So you pick that up, mate. And with every piece to pick up, they get more and more annoyed. So you're getting that person who starts off nice and calm into towards the end of the show a complete raging mess. And then I pick up all the poo and I put it at the side. I keep chucking it down. Then I give the poo to members of the audience and say, right, when I tell you to, chuck the shit on stage, and they do. And it just works. You know, it really works. She's been writing some stuff for me this year. She's on about doing something in a time machine or something or other. I don't know. So cool. Yeah, I'm delegating. I'm getting my 8-year-old to write me show.
Absolutely brilliant.
Out the kids' minds, you know. It's like, you know, yourself as a hypnotist, when you're writing new sketches, you can write a joke, and if you can test it out with your family and your friends, they can turn around and say, yeah, that joke is funny, or no, that joke is not. But with a hypnosis sketch, when you're starting from the bare basics, you're only playing with people's emotions. You know, you've got happiness, sadness, you've got people's opposites, straight and gay. And it's really tricky because you can get it in your mind thinking, yeah, that'll be really, really funny if I did it. But you're relying on members of the public, and sometimes they don't have the imagination. People don't have the imagination like they used to do years and years and years ago. I used to do a sketch years ago, the Crazy Inventor, where I give them, you've probably done it yourself, where you give them an item and say, right, for example, I give them a whisk, one of them whirly whisk. And now I've changed it to, you're on Dragon's Den and you've got to sell this invention. So years ago, I remember.
I think you did that on me in about 19. Christ Almighty! I would have only been 15. We sneaked in, so 80, 85. About 1990-ish at the Horsham Show Bar. Remember an egg whisk? I know there was the electric shock fart about nicking it off the person next to you, trying to, but every time you touched it, you got the electric shock. But I have a vague recollection of the inventors.
Yeah, I mean, years ago, people had more of an imagination. You know, you give them that whisk, and one guy, I'll never forget, I said, what is it? He said, it's a personalised helicopter, and he starts flying around the stage. Brilliant. Now, you do the whisk, and it's like, oh, it's for whisking eggs. You're not fucking grasping this at all. And people, because I think people don't have the attention span anymore, because, you know, in the old days when you only had 4 or 5 TV channels, you had to watch what you had to watch at that time. Now you've got Netflix, Amazon, and people are flicking, flick, and watch 10 minutes of something. Then the adverts come on, so you flick onto something else. You forgot what you were watching in the first place. And people just don't have the attention span anymore. It's really strange how it's gone. You know, The Inventor was a really, really good sketch. It worked really, really well. Now it's hard work. You know, it's just how people have changed.
So you've naturally gone on to what was one of my next bullet points to ask you, the process of putting together new material. Because I know that you're very passionate about, and for viewers at home, I'm going to hold my hands up here. Ken already knows this, but you at home may not know. Years ago, and by years ago, I mean, we're going to 1993 here, January 1993. I was on a show called The Word, and during that, I did something that was essentially Ken's routine. Like, it was only a quick gag as well. I mean, I don't mean a fully bloody fleshed out minutes or long. It was a quick gag, and the fact is, looking back, I shouldn't have done. Looking back, I did. I was young. I was stupid. You know, I'm publicly saying sorry here. So as part of that, you shouldn't nick material. You should at least change a bit. And the reason I say change it at the very least is because there are some things that are so old they're practically in the public domain. Opposite sex, stuff that's in bloody stage hypnosis by Professor Leonardo, which will. So I mean, but the basics of the rubber noses is in there.
Yeah.
It doesn't say the rubber, but it says the stretchy. So there's some stuff that's as old as the hills, but then it's that tweak that you bud on it, for example, that makes it unique to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Which shouldn't be nicked. What advice would you give to people to make it easier for them not to fall into the trap of nicking other material, i.e. to generate their own ideas?
You look at the psychology of a sketch, basically. You look at the psychology of a sketch. There's nothing worse than people going out and nicking other people's material. I just think it's lower than Jeanette Cranky's piss flaps. I just think nicking, word for word. Fair enough. If you see a sketch and you think, yeah, I like that sketch, right? Okay, what's the psychology behind it? Right, you're turning somebody into something that is their complete opposite. Right, well, how do I make that my own? The sketches that I know that I've sat down and written myself, like the drink driver sketch, like the lap dance sketch, blah, blah, blah. There's lots of sketches where I've sat down and I've worked and I've worked and I've worked and I've worked and I've got it absolutely spot on. Then somebody comes along with a notepad and pen, writes it down, goes off and nicks it. That's not nice. That's not good. If somebody comes up to me, which they have done in the past, hypnotists have come up to me at the end of the show and said, Ken, I really like that sketch. Would you mind if I used it? Not a problem at all. You've got the decency to come up and ask me. Absolutely fine. I was doing when I had Stan, my dog.
You should at least sell him a DVD, Ken. At the very least, at the very least, you should be selling him a DVD at that point. At least buy the bloody DVD as well.
Well, I mean, when I did Stan, my dog Stan, who was a boxer, bless him, and I did the I videoed Stan because I was again first hypno in the country to do video screens at the back, and I videoed Stan, look into Stan's eyes, and you'll fall asleep. The first thing I did was rang Hugh Lennon and said, "Look, Hugh, you do the hypno dog. I'm just doing a quick sketch on stage. Would you mind if I did?" And I showed Hugh the footage, and he turned around and said, "Absolutely not a problem, Ken." And I just think it's decency to ask people, and there's nothing worse than sort of looking at a hypnotist, seeing your own sketches, thinking, "You've done that wrong. That's shit. You shouldn't have said that. You did that in the wrong way." It's just you see an idea. I mean, 32 years I've been at the Pleasure Beach now, and I try and write a brand new show every year. That's hard work. Yeah, I mean, I do regurgitate stuff from time to time. I think, right, I used the drink driver sketch last year. How can I turn that round now and change it? Whether you're getting a parking ticket this time, just something to change, because that's what makes you an individual. That's what people come back year after year after year. Some people come back week after week to Blackpool to see the show. I can't give them the same old shite, I mean, I have gone back to basics, I must admit. I've gone back to, imagine your Freddie Mercury, for God's sake, because, again, in these days of political correctness, PC brigade, you can't say anything without upsetting.
Well, that's my next question on this list. You mentioned before people's attention span has changed. And, yeah, I believe with social media and all these stimulants, that's a contributor to that. But I know it has, but for the viewers at home, I want your opinion. How has things changed, both in terms of the physical comedy routines that you get volunteers to do, as well as your verbal comedic reactions around those routines, with all this political correctness and you can't say this, you can't do that?
God. I mean, basically, the shows I do now are absolutely nothing like we were doing sort of in the early 90s, where you'd have a rubber doll on stage. And there's a very fine line between being offensive and being outrageous. and you've got to know where to draw that line. And that's especially nowadays with the political correctness stuff. You know, you can't say anything without somebody being offended. Offense is taken, it's not given. You know, it's killed comedy completely, and you've got to be so careful because everybody's there filming the show, doing this, doing that, and you just need to say one wrong thing, and it's on YouTube and it's everywhere. So now, you know, I'm not squeaky clean. My sketches are squeaky clean. My mouth isn't. Basically, you know, I still F and blind on stage and come out with various things, but you know, you can't say. The British sense of humour was always taking the piss out of people, you know, whether you were short, slim, ginger, but whatever, you took it on the chin, you know, and if you went back to the days where people didn't take offence, comedy would be a lot. I mean, I watch Jimmy Carr. I like Jimmy Carr. Some of the stuff Jimmy comes out with, you're like, fucking hell, sorry, how the hell have you got away with that? That's well out of order. Ricky Gervais, you know, one of a comedy genius, Ricky Gervais, a comedy genius. But again, some of the stuff he comes out with, you know, when you're talking about kids with cancer and stuff, it's like, just crossed the line a little bit for me, that has. But I'm not going to complain about it. I'm not going to write in and never go and see Ricky Gervais again. It was a one-liner that he threw away, and I'm not going to complain about him. But you've got to be so careful nowadays. And if people learn to take the piss out of themselves like they used to do in the olden days, life will be a lot simpler. But now, unfortunately, you've got too many of these people that just go around wearing paper shoes, eating their own fucking clothes, and just find something to complain about. That's my opinion anyway.
What I find ironic is that, for example, the Carry On films with the good old double entendres, they're still incredibly popular, and yet they'd never let them make those today.
No, well, the Carry On films, I mean, it's my era, the Carry On films. You know, I've spent a fortune on Carry On memorabilia. It's tongue in cheek, you know. It's what you make of it in your mind, and that's what comedy is all about. You can say a one-liner, and it's how you make it. I mean, with the PC stuff, you know, I mean, years ago when you used to come out with some of the gay stuff, you know, it's like you never ever get the gay people complaining. Absolutely, you never get gay people complaining about the odd gag.
No, you've got a massive fan base with the gay.
You know, I've got a huge fan base of gay people because they know I'm the last person in the world that's homophobic. You know, we've got at the Pleasure Beach, we've got one of the managers who's as camp as a row of tents, Michael. And when I see him, I'll give him a hug, I'll give him a cuddle, I'll give him a kiss on the cheek. But I'm not gay. Do you know what I mean? It's just it's middle class people that complain on other people's behalf, you know, and it's just, I don't know, it's killed comedy. You've got to be so careful what you say and what you do now, you know. Like I say, my act, my sketches now are virtually squeaky clean. It's just my mouth that's a bit vulgar.
Well, people would be disappointed if there wasn't at least that edge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, the years, you know yourself, you know, years ago when you used to do the sheep shagger, you know, you wouldn't get away with that now. In a million years, you wouldn't get away with that. You know, you'd have somebody complaining that it was cruel to sheep. You know, especially the vegans.
Yeah. Oh, God. Do you, when you're writing your sketches, do you draw inspiration from your times as a cinema projectionist, watching and also I know that you look at a lot of the old films. I know you're a particular fan of Laurel and Hardy stuff. Good old slapstick humour, its base as the old Laurel and Hardy and your Buster Keatons and all that kind of was. Do you draw inspiration from that when you're putting stuff together?
I draw facial expressions from Stan and facial expressions from Ollie when something goes wrong on stage. I'll stare at the audience as though Ollie's staring down the camera. So, not sketch-wise, because there's not a lot that Stan and Ollie did that you could really convert into a Hypnosis sketch, but facial expressions, looking at the audience with a gormless look on my face when something happens, absolutely. I mean, Stan and Ollie, you know, you can't get any funnier. They were the godfathers of comedy. And even if you don't like Laurel and Hardy, you cannot deny that they invented comedy. They invented the double act without a shadow of a doubt. They were just heroes in my book, absolute heroes. Stan and Ollie. You know, it's I've spent thousands, if not tens of thousands of pounds on Laurel and Hardy memorabilia. You know, it's just a fascination of mine. And the new film, Stan and Ollie, oh God, I must have seen that 17, 18 times. And yes, I still cry at the end. There you go.
Same here. I defy anyone watching this to watch the new Stan and Ollie film, which starring Steve Coogan, and to not at the end at least have a tear welling up, at the very, very least, because it is amazing.
It was well directed, it was well produced, it was well acted. There was absolutely not one thing about that film that I didn't like, not one. There's another one as well, the BBC, I think it's on Netflix or Amazon, and it's really underrated film, but I loved it, called Stan. Yeah, just Stan. And it was really, you never got any publicity on it. I never read about it or anything. I was just flicking through. I thought, what's this? It was all about the last days of Ollie's life, and it was really poignant. It was really well acted. It was really good. Just called Stan.
Right. Well, dig that one out. Definitely, I've not seen that one.
Yeah.
Just looking down at my notes here. Now, you segued a few years back. I'm saying a few years back. Time disappears. It could be longer than just a few years now. But for a short while, you added mentalism to your shows in Blackpool. Kind of Darren Brown met Chubby Brown.
Yes. Yeah.
How did that come about, and why are you not doing it now? Because I've seen comments online, people going, "Oh, Ken, bring some of the mentalism back. It was bloody brilliant."
Well, yeah, I mean, I did it for 5 years. I did the mentalism, and I loved it. I absolutely loved doing it. The first 2 years, it was shit. I was absolutely crap. But I took when I did the hypnosis in the second half, people forgot the shite I'd done in the first half. But as the years progressed, I just got more and more comfortable with it. I mean, Darren Brown, that man is just the best. He's just phenomenal at what he does. There is nobody to beat Darren Brown. He's absolutely phenomenal. And I will never, no matter how many years I do it, no matter how many years I start doing it again, there's no way will I reach Darren Brown's talent in a million years. But I enjoyed doing it. It was a good, again, I made it an adult. It was adult mentalism, where you're picking out dildos and vibrators and stuff from boxes and putting them in bags and all the rest of it. And we had the Malloy box. Well, I had 5 Malloy boxes. And it was good. I really enjoyed doing it. And a lot of people, were saying, "Oh, when are you going to do the mentalism again? When are you going to do it?" But on the other hand, a lot of people saying, "Love the mentalism, but we prefer the hypnotism." So I was really in 2 minds whether to do it again, whether to bring it back or not to bring it back. I don't know. I might bring it back again.
Is there any scope to do 2 different nights, literally 2 different shows?
I'm not a good enough mentalist to do a full night of just mentalism.
So. Interesting. I suspect you're better than you think you are, because the presentation is the key, and you've already got that.
Yeah, I mean, the presentation, yeah. Towards the end, I got more relaxed with it. I got more comfortable with it. And again, with mentalism, it's not as bad as magic. If a magic trick goes wrong, you're bollocks. If a mentalism trick goes wrong, it's not your fault. It's the powers. Either that or you've got a flat battery on your receiver, one or the other.
Secrets.
But no, it's I enjoy doing the mentalism. It was. I remember what I had this. I had a lady up from Thailand. Well, going back to political correctness, and there was a guy in the audience with this Filipino Thai girl or whatever, clearly mail order. So I said, I need a volunteer out of the audience. Can you come and give me a hand? Well, yeah, you'll do it, love. And this lady came up on stage, and there was a spotlight shining down on her, and it was to pick a card or something like that. So I said, "You're all right, love. Stand yourself under." And she had a short skirt on. I said, "You're all right." I said, "Just stand yourself under that light. We can't see your cock and bollocks. You're all right." And it was like tumbleweed. I thought, "Fucking hell, I've crossed the line here." But then a table in the left-hand side started laughing, and it was like a Mexican wave, and it went all the way across the theatre. And that laugh must have lasted 2 minutes. It absolutely ripped. But going back to PC, people look around and say, is it okay to laugh at that? Is it okay to laugh at this? You know, and it's like, she was pissing herself as well, you know. PC, she was laughing, you know. But yeah, that was actually one of James Brandon's best ad-lib. James Brandon, the other half of the Grumbleweeds, he's been in the business 40 odd years, and he's brought out a book, the best ad-libs and the best one-liners.
Armed and Dangerous.
Yeah, and I'm really proud to say his new book has got that quote in it, saying it was the funniest ad-lib he'd ever seen, which I was really chuffed with that.
Excellent. So I'm just thinking, there's so many different areas you've done. Tell us a bit about you. A few years back, you used to start the show with I've had a mental brain fart, and I should have wrote this down, but the Saw character coming on the
Billy,
Billy from Saw, and I know that one of your businesses, you were hiring out proper pro quality horror characters and stuff. How did that come about?
I'm a horror hero. Well, basically, it was an idea that I had. Again, another one of my obsessions is collecting horror memorabilia. And I got the original Billy puppet from Saw 2. He's in the scene where he gets thrown to the ground. So basically, I had Billy adapted. I had a remote control bicycle made, and I had Billy's mouth was able to move, and his eyes were able to move, his head was able to move. So I did fully. He sat me down. The wife keeps saying, "No, we're going to sell that. We're going to sell that." No, I'm not going to sell it. So I just thought, I want to do something different here. So I was opening out the show with different characters, and I bought the original Michael Myers mask from Halloween, the new Halloween, the Rob Zombie version. I bought the original outfit from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original version with Gunnar Hansen. A very low budget film, but I loved it. My Bloody Valentine, Harry Warden with a gas mask and stuff. I got some original stuff for that. I got original Freddy Krueger hat, so I got all the Freddy Krueger stuff to go with it. Who else have I got? Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, Jason. So I've got all these different horror characters. And I thought, right, well, they're only sort of stood on mannequins in my house, so I'll rent these out at Halloween. And so I get some actors together and say, right, you're dressed in that, you're dressed in that, go scare the shit out of people. We've done it at Blackpool Pleasure Beach now for a few years on their Halloween stuff, and I love doing that. I loved it. I'm Gunnar Hansen, Leatherface. I had a 6-foot chainsaw made as well, covered it all in blood. It's a proper chainsaw, but we stopped the teeth from going round. Yeah. And basically, we just go around, all 5 of us, just scaring the shit out of people. And I loved it. It was just brilliant doing that. So, but there wasn't a lot of call for people hiring out the characters, to be honest. So I just keep them for myself. Scare the kids. Trick or treat. Shit themselves when they see Leatherface stood at the door with a in their hands. Don't come back.
Excellent. Oh, dearie me. Right, back to hypnosis. What? Because you still do. Well, I don't know if you still do right now, but I know when I spoke to you a few years back up in Blackpool, you mentioned that you did. You were helping somebody with OCD, I seem to recall it was, and that you still do the odd bit of therapy and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I still do the odd bit of therapy if it interests me. Smoking and weight loss and stuff, no. But if somebody comes up to me, like the lad with OCD, he's a proper paramedic now. He's fully passed his exams and he's putting his life on the line and driving ambulances and stuff now. Whereas at one point, you weren't allowed in his bedroom. He wouldn't go out. If he went out in his car, he'd drive around the block, come back and clean it 3 or 4 times. And you weren't allowed in his bedroom because everything had to be in its place and stuff. And we had 5 or 6 sessions now. That gives me a massive boost. That sort of thing. Funnily enough, I was talking to his dad because his dad cuts my grass. And I was talking to his dad and I said, "How's Wayne? He's doing really well. Really, really well, And that was a real good feel factor. That. So, yeah, I mean, if I get people, that really genuinely need some help and I believe that I can help them, then I will do. But people say, "Oh, can you stop me smoking?" No. No.
But buy a CD.
I'm not a 100% believer hypnosis stops people smoking. I'm not 100%. I've done people, hypnotized people, and yes, they have stopped smoking, but I just think we just help them along a little bit. That's what I believe.
I personally think all we do is give them a bit more confidence or belief or willpower not to start again. They put the cigarette out and stop, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the weight thing, the weight loss, the gastric band, it was like I was in two minds. I thought, yeah, right. Well, shit a brick. Out the results I was getting with the gastric band were ridiculous. I even surprised myself on that one.
Look at the link below. There are
honestly, I'm not trying
testables on there.
But I'm not trying to, do a hard sell for myself. But when we had the Scarborough Weight Loss Clinic, I was doing 3 or 4 people a day with a hypnogastric band. I got through more levels of Candy Crush doing that than anything. Because you do. You just go into autopilot, don't you? Sit there for Candy Crush. You just go into autopilot with the first session. But the success I had, it was ridiculous. People were coming in saying, "I've lost a stone." I've lost a stone. Have you? Oh, right. Chuck you on these scales. Yeah, you've lost a stone. Shit a brick. It works, this. And it did. It really, really surprised me as to how successful that was. I'm going to have to do it myself, though, I think, because look at these chins.
Well, that because we're all locked in. There's very little to do except eat.
No.
Madness. So when you're doing things like the OCD client, things like that are more complicated to deal with than telling somebody they no longer want to bloody smoke or that it tastes like dog shit or whatever. What's your favourite approach? Because I know that Will Proudfoot, Gil Boyne's transforming therapy, as Gil called it, isn't really, in my opinion, particularly suitable for things like OCD. It is for the more basic stuff.
Hypnotherapy is common sense. That's it. As a therapist, the more common sense you've got, the more success you'll have. Taking things right back to basics, A, B, C, X, Y, Z. I mean, when I was training with Wilf, I got into more arguments with Wilf than anybody else. I got into an argument with Orman McGill as well. Nonsense he talked. Lovely man, but nonsense. Anyway, with the therapy side of it, Wilf, you'll do this aversion technique, right? When they smoke this cigarette, it'll taste like burning rubber. It's just bollocks, because the first thing that person will do is, I'll just see if it does taste like burning rubber. Oh, no, it doesn't. How much have I just wasted on that hypnotist? Nonsense. I go into them being in a hospital bed, and you've just been diagnosed with lung cancer and you've got your children around you, This is not going to cause you any adverse effects afterwards, but you will think about it. And chuck all your safety nets in there. And I've stopped more people, allegedly stopped more people smoking by doing it that way, scaring the shit out of people, really. This is what's going to happen. You carry on smoking. This is what's going to happen to you. And this is what's going to happen to your family. Simple, And I'm more like, you can't do that. You can't do that. Well, why am I getting more success than you with a cigarette that tastes like burning rubber? I just totally disagree with that. And it was the same with before the hypnogastric band, where he was like, you won't be eating chocolate anymore. You won't be eating cakes anymore. It just didn't, to me, it just didn't compute. It's like, right, okay, you've just been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Your life has now been shortened, Look at what you look like wobbling down the street. Imagine what you smell like because you sweat more as a fat person. And I went right into the nitty gritty of it. And again, you can't do that. Well, yeah, you can, because that's successful. It's just stripping stuff back to ABC. With the OCD, the first thing I did with Wayne was I said, right, where are we not allowed in our bedrooms? Nobody's allowed in the bedroom. Why not? I said, I just don't like people in the bedroom. I said, well, if you want help, let me into your bedroom. So he did. And I went in his bedroom and wrecked it. I threw all his pencils everywhere. I threw all his bedding everywhere. I opened his curtains. And he was in a state. I said, right. I said, what's happened? What do you mean, what's happened? I said, has the house fallen in? No. Has anybody died? No. I said, so your bedroom's a mess. How has that affected you? What's that? What drastic effect has that had on your life? And he went, none. And that was it. That was the
realization.
Light that switched on his head. I said, right, Wayne, go on, we'll make your bed. We'll do it all up again. We'll do it all. We put everything right, everything back again. How do you feel now, Wayne? Oh, I said, that's better. Oh, here we go again. And wrecked it all again. I said, how do you feel now? He said, not as bad as the last time. So we were making inroads there. We tied, and I think we had about 5 or 6 sessions. And what the annoying thing was he was in a psychiatric unit, Tall Trees or Green Trees or something in York. He was in there Monday to Friday and coming home Saturday, Sunday. And they were giving him tablets, you know, antidepressants, which to me is just like putting wallpaper on a damp wall. It just covers the problem, but the tablet wears off, your problem's still there. That's my own opinion. And cut a long story short, Wayne and I have been seeing each other once a week for about 6 weeks. I said, look, take your meds if you want. If you feel more comfortable taking your meds, take them. If not, don't. The choice is yours. You're not going to die if you don't take them. They're not, they're not life check. They're not keeping you alive, basically. So towards the end, his dad and his mum and Wayne went through for evaluation at the psychiatric hospital. And the doctors turned around to him and said, we've got good news for you, Mr. I'm not going to say his last name. We've got good news for you. We're allowing Wayne to go home on a permanent basis because we believe that the tablets we've been giving him and the therapy we've been giving him here have had a fantastic effect on Wayne. So we're now discharging him. And his dad said he hasn't taken any tablets for 3 weeks. He's been to see a hypnotherapist, and the doctor said, that's rubbish. That you couldn't have an effect on that. It's a therapy we've been doing here, and the tablets. It's like, you dickhead. You know. So yeah, it was good success was that with the LCD. But again, you know, you can do all this training that you want, but just use your common sense. You know, like when I wrecked his room, it's like, well, nothing's going to happen, Wayne, and it didn't. You know, and that's what he then had trust in me, because the second time we did it, he didn't feel as bad. So he thought, yeah, this has made a difference. Nobody's ever done this before. People have only said, right, are you feeling a bit anxious? Colour this picture in and take some amylopixylate. Yeah.
I'm laughing because sadly it's so true, and there'll be people sat at home watching this who know it's true. You bloody CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy cobblers. Yeah. And I call it mind rape, getting people to bloody unnecessarily relive stuff. At least the context of what you've just described had a positive, quick, noticeable difference to him.
Exactly. You know, I mean, it's like, right, what we're going to do today? We're going to have a quiz today. So we'll have another 6 people with mental health problems. We're going to have a quiz. Right. What day is Christmas Day on? Oh, it's aversion therapy. It's bollocks, if you ask me. But there you go. That's just my opinion. You know, you don't have to believe my opinion. You don't have to take my opinion. It's just my opinion.
I'm inclined to agree. I mean, people watching, I'm sure you developed that approach yourself, but it's very similar to Frank Farrelly's provocative therapy, as he calls it, which is about proper in the face, getting them to confront it like that and notice that it isn't the end of the world. So they've got some kind of proof and evidence.
Exactly. I mean, you know, I think was it Fritz Perls, Gestalt therapy. I'll never forget a course with Wilf was messing about with Gestalt therapy, and this woman said that she was a bit overweight and she ate a lot of cake. And I said, right, sit in that chair over there. So she had 2 chairs, one sat opposite each other. Right, you sit in that chair there and become the chocolate cake.
Oh,
no. And that's going to do who any good whatsoever. And then she had to have a conversation with herself as a chocolate cake. So, just tell her she's going to get fat, sweaty, have diabetes, type 2 diabetes. She'll stop eating the cake, but become the chocolate cake. Whoa. Sorry if there's any Fritz Perls people, fans out there, and Gestalt therapy fans out there, but not my bad.
Excellent. Right, I've got to ask you, because it's on the bullet points, and I've only got like 10, 11 minutes left. So we might overrun a couple of minutes if that's okay. Street hypnosis, the bloody ridiculous, let me get this out, craze that it started in America. No disrespect to Richard Nongard and John Saborn, none whatsoever. They're both friends of mine. I've interviewed them. You can see them on hypnosisweek.com. And things are way different in America. But they did popularize hypnosis on the street as a hobby, effectively hypnotizing random strangers for own purpose of ego stroking, sticking their hands to lampposts and all this nonsense. And in America, not too much of an issue, because most of the videos I've seen of people doing it there, they appear to have been told by Richard, who I know's into safety, don't stand near bloody roads where traffic's coming by and whatnot. However, in England, then, well, I'm going to mention name because I've done in the past. Anthony Jacquin, nothing against him as a human being personally, but in the context of teaching people not enough, so it's potentially dangerous, released a product back then that magicians got hold of and started filming themselves doing street hypnosis in England, the way it was becoming a craze in America. And you would see videos going up where people are stood on the edge of a pavement. They're not even putting the hand there to stop them in case they fall over when they say sleep. Traffic's coming by, whirling by. There's videos where people actually do fall to the ground like a sack of bloody spuds and nearly hit their head on concrete paving and all this. And I kind of became very vocal about this and contacted all the UK councils, and I managed to get most of these bloody meetings. They were having like bloody meetings where they victimise one person like a pack of animals and hypnotise them, or rather scare the shit out of them to be compliant, and then they pass them round like a puppy around the group. It was just wrong on every level, aside from the fact they weren't insured, aside from the fact they were breaking the 52 Act. And I contacted you as the chairman of FESH, the Federation of Ethical Stage Hypnotists, and you kindly gave a letter that also went in with the stuff that went to the council districts. What did you make? Thank God it seems to have died down a hell of a lot, but it was complete and utter bloody bonkers, I think. What was your views on it?
Well, to be honest, Alex, I mean, I didn't agree with it. It was wrong what they were doing, but luckily nobody came to any harm. Sort of died out now, really. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't my favourite form of hypnosis, but I knew it wouldn't last long anyway. They weren't causing any problems with business or anything as such. They could have done if something had gone wrong, but they didn't, and it's like, it was just one of those flash in the pan things, I think, that's now sort of over, and they've had the 10 minutes, 15 minutes of fame or whatever, and I think it's all died down now, to be honest. I think stage hypnosis itself, apart from the street hypnosis, I think stage hypnosis itself has really quietened down because people have changed,
Well, that was the next question. What do you think the future of stage hypnosis is?
I think people nowadays are a lot more cynical than they were. When I first got into this, very early 80s, to be a hypnotist, you had to know a hypnotist. You had to learn off a hypnotist. You didn't have the internet, you didn't have emails, you didn't have mobile phones, you didn't have any of that. You had to go and sit with another hypnotist and learn your trade. Whereas now you can go on the internet and type in, I want to be a hypnotist, bang, you can be a hypnotist. But again, this out of, I would say, if there was 1,000 people bought 1,000 courses, 2 of them would be hypnotists. Because at the end of the day, yourself, you can teach somebody to be a stage hypnotist in an hour. You can't teach people to be an entertainer. That's something that you're born with. It's not something that you can learn. You cannot learn to be an entertainer. It is impossible. You're born with that. Well, anybody can be a hypnotist within an hour. It depends what you do with it when you've got the knowledge. And like I say, not everybody is a born entertainer. And some people do it. Some people do courses, I think, just to find out how it works. Like you buy a magic trick to find. I've spent so much money on magic tricks because I wanted to know how it was done. And then put it in a bin. It's not worked. But I just think that, like I say, you're born an entertainer. That's something that you're born with, not something you can learn. And I think times have changed now. What's the future of stage hypnosis? it'll still be there. It'll still be around. The TV side of it, I don't think it'll ever be on television again. Not after that last load of old bollocks that was on. I don't think it'll ever be on telly again. It might be on Netflix, maybe, but I don't think it'll be on your main channels.
I'm guessing Ken's referring to you Back in the Room, the game show where it was
honest, I didn't watch it.
It was completely flawed, the concept. Now, Keith Barry, he's a great mentalist. Technically, he's a good hypnotist. I don't know, but I don't know why he took on the role, because the concept was at the end of it, after they've done things to improv, well, to get to the final, in the final bit, the hypnotist has told them that, you know, every time I cough, for example, you'll get an electric shock, so that'll make you drop all the balls that you've been grabbing from one bucket over there, that you've got to get to the other side of the stage. But these people knew that if they get the balls from that side of the stage to the other side, everyone they get in the other bucket is worth money to them. So not surprisingly, there were very few balls getting dropped when they're supposed to be getting an electric shock, which made it look as though hypnosis doesn't work. That was the fundamentally flawed bit of it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch it. I'll be honest with you, I didn't watch it because I read about it and thought, you know, I'm not arse. I'm not listening to this. I'm not watching this, you know. But no, I don't think it'll be on TV again. I mean, I'm lucky, you know. Well, hopefully starting Blackpool in July. God knows if I am doing or not. I have absolutely no idea. We'll just have to wait and see, you know. And I've just realised the background. My background's terrible. I must point out I'm actually in my print shop and not in my living room, because I've just noticed that there's like no wallpaper on that.
Oh no, we figured we figured that was a purposeful thing, because earlier on when you were talking about printing equipment and the cost of buying it, you move your camera around and we can see printing equipment.
Oh right, I just looked at the background. I thought I look as though I live in a hovel. But
no, I thought you were consciously aware of that before. So we're getting right close to the end, and there's a question I ask everyone at the end. I'll come to that in a minute. But before I do, I just want to remind viewers that below this video are all the links to Ken's various different websites. If you've not seen his show, or you have and you didn't buy a DVD when you were there, go and buy DVD. If you want to lose weight, go and get his gastric band system. If you're a stage hypnotist and you want to get more bookings, and you can get a good, and you work decent venues, or you're going to hire one, get it filmed properly. Get in touch with Ken. If he can't do it himself, he'll give the advice to the people he can supply you with to film it in a manner where they will get the right shots, because he knows what he's bloody talking about. Simple as that. So, I'm just quickly looking at my notes here. We've covered mentalism, stage hypnosis, hypnotherapy. Yes, you mentioned much earlier on. I remember when you were talking about the cake, it jumped into my head. Right at the beginning, you mentioned you've been doing baking and cooking with your daughter while on lockdown. And it's cooking something you do a lot of, because you actually won Come Dine With Me on Channel 4 in England, didn't you?
I did, yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't Come Down With Me. It's one of those programs that my wife and I used to watch all the time. And I said, I'd love to do that one day. And it came to Scarborough. And yeah, I did it and won it. Thoroughly enjoyed doing it. They asked me back to do a Champion of Champions, but I declined on that. It was a one-off show they did. And I think they got 4 of the most entertaining people that were on there. And look, I was picked to do it, which was quite an honour, really. But I turned it down. I'd done Come Down With Me. I didn't want any more TV challenges. But yeah, I love cooking. Yeah, me and my little girl cook all the time.
Excellent. So that brings us, sadly, to the final question, because the time, we're very nearly at the hour. And the question I ask everyone is, and I suppose we've got to ask this from the perspective, well, you've done therapy and you do therapy as well as stage. So from whichever perspective you want, you can answer this. What would be your sort of top 3 bits of advice to viewers who are early on in their careers to be the best they can possibly be at what they do, whether that's in terms of refining the techniques of what they do, or in terms of marketing themselves better, which is something that you've been particularly good at over the years?
3 bits. Well, be yourself. Just be yourself and not anybody else. Do your own sketches. Oh God, it's a tricky one, this. Think of your own sketches and study and learn and listen watch other people, read, do a lot. I mean, Owen McGill, you know, even Professor Leonardis, you know, there's some little gems, there's some little nuggets of information in those books. I mean, Leonardis was 1900 now, wasn't it? Something like that. You know, there's some little nuggets in there. I mean, I read cover to cover Owen McGill's encyclopedia, and there's just little nuggets. And just don't go out there thinking you're the best, because you're not. There's always somebody who's better than you. And just have respect for your audience, and have respect for people that you've got on stage, and don't hypnotize anybody on stage to do something that you wouldn't do yourself, or you wouldn't have your wife or your girlfriend doing. You'd be outrageous, but just know where to draw the line. Don't offend people. Don't offend your audience. Be on the same level as your audience. Don't think you're better than them. You're on the same level as them. And like I say, don't hypnotize anybody to do anything that you wouldn't do yourself, or you wouldn't have your wife or your girlfriend do.
So for those people who are interested, obviously they can look at the website links below. They can get DVDs, they can get printing done with you, and all those things we've mentioned. When is there going to be the Ken Webster either book or the Ken Webster training course? I know you've got DVDs out that show you doing it, and if people watch them, the truth be known, because you do actually book the full hypnotic induction process on those DVDs. That's how I started out. Back in 1989, I watched a VHS tape, it was back then, of a hypnosis show before I'd ever seen a hypnotist live. And NLP will call it modelling. Pretty much effectively copied it word for word, action for action, the induction process, and fuck me, it worked. It was after the event that I started learning why it worked. But when you've got so much knowledge and experience and unique insights, when are people going to be able to get that?
When there's a demand for it. When I've got time to.
So if people watching this are interested in something like that coming to the market, send an email to Ken and say, please put me on your waiting list to let me know when that becomes available. And then basically, if enough people are interested, it may motivate him to take some time away from the printing or one of his many other pursuits. So just before we wind up, I did have one final bullet point here, and I can't finish without bringing this up, because it touches my heart what I've seen you do on social media. My grandmother, my grandma on my dad's side, and my gran on my mum's side, we lost both of them ultimately to dementia, and it's like losing them twice.
Yeah.
And I know you do a lot of fundraising for dementia.
Yeah,
charities.
Absolutely. I mean, it was my mother-in-law who died. She died in January, and she had vascular dementia. And if there's, it's just such a cruel disease, because she was diagnosed 4 years ago, and she was admitted into a care home 2 years ago. And my wife, for the past 4 years, has watched her mum die. You know, she's dead, basically. Yeah. But she was still alive. So it was virtually a 4-year grieving process that my wife had to go through with her mum. Luckily, and I say luckily, she died in January, and I don't mean that in a nasty way. But what gets me and what really fucks me off is you can't, if you got cancer or heart disease, all your care is paid for. If you're a scratter on universal benefits and you've never worked a day in your life, all your care is paid for. But dementia, Alzheimer's, is not seen as a health need. It's seen as a social need. So therefore, if you have dementia or Alzheimer's, you have to pay for your own care in a care home. That is disgusting. And it's about time the government changed the stance on this. There's supposed to be a green card going through to change this, But if you've got dementia or Alzheimer's, you have to pay for your own care because it's classed as a social need and not a health need. So when you're sat in a chair and you can't eat and you can't swallow and you can't talk and you can't walk, it's still a social need. It's not a health need. Wankers.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more. So yeah, that might seem like a somewhat depressing, sobering talk to end with, but it isn't. It's reality, and it's to illustrate the heart of gold this gentleman actually has that some people might not necessarily have realised or seen, but it is, you know, you can't deny the facts that are out there. Look at the links below. Ken, thank you so much for sparing the past 65 minutes. Sorry, we overran 5 minutes.
You're welcome. No problem. Enjoyed it.
It's been a pleasure. And yeah, everyone, check out the links below. Contact Ken, and we'll see you on the next edition of Hypnosis Week. Bye for now.
Cheers, Alex.